The stink in cricket deepening, and but remember, this is in the context of IPL 7, which is going on. Put many questions on why this is happening. Your questions are already coming in. We're going to take them in a while. Cricketwala is with us, and so is another cricket aficionado, Dilip, who joins us from his home in Bandra. Dilip, thank you very much. So, Ayaz, let's begin. Why is this whole corruption revelation suddenly erupted?
Well, actually, the case has been going on for a while. You know, in New Zealand cricket, there have been instances where players were thought or believed to have been indulging in sharp practices in the past. And I think what has happened is that they closed in on Lou Vincent, the ICC and the ACSU attached to the ICC. News leaked out. This story was broken in England by the Daily Telegraph, the Daily Mail. And they've, Lou Vincent has sought a plea bargain saying, and he's naming about 8, 10, 12 cricketers, including what he calls a star player from his own country, somebody he idolized. But significantly, what is emerging is that it's not only the IPL or it's not only restricted to India. Lou Vincent has talked about the Indian Cricket League, which took place in 2008. He's talked about county cricket, where he played county cricket and he was asked to spot fix, and he's also talked of the Champions League in 2008.
Ayaz, tell us, we've, so we are in the midst of an investigation going on in India, where the Board of Control of Cricket is investigating, and the separate committee appointed by the Supreme Court of India is investigating. Those are allegations to do with
IPL 6 specifically,
and teams that are playing in India.
Teams and players who are involved there.
And this is, we are talking about the current captain of the New Zealand team, who's referring to a phase in 2008, that is before the first IPL.
No, so what has happened is Lou Vincent is a former New Zealand player who's sought a plea bargain, and as the story has been, more information is being leaked out, it's also been found out that Brendan McCullum, who's the current New Zealand captain,
and CSK player,
had also talked about being approached during the first IPL season by, again, another player who he called his hero and couldn't believe it. He says he didn't accept the money. But the point, Govind, is that the ICC is very clear, the ACSU is very clear, that the minute you are approached is when you should let us know. It seems that McCullum that time didn't know. For one reason, didn't let them know.
Right. So, but the ICC has come out in defense of Brendan McCullum. They're saying that there's nothing wrong with what he's
the New Zealand Cricket Board, the ICC, has given Brendan McCullum a clean chit. In fact, most of the current.
Why is that? Only is that because he was the first? He kind of came up first and said, "Oh, I was approached by someone." Why?
Because I think what's been happening is that New Zealand cricket has been, kind of thrown in the deep end in this scam and corruption, and it's been going on for actually a while, perhaps a little longer than the IPL 6 probe that has been happening here. And I think they've probably taken a harder, harsher stand, which is all to the good. Remember, they don't have as much resources as the Indian Cricket Board has, and yet they've been making a serious attempt because they found it.
Or as many egos has.
No, and New Zealand cricket is very vulnerable. It's not a rich board. The players get easily tempted. So they realize that it could completely crash. And therefore, they've been a little more aggressive in reaching to the bottom of this problem. Lou Vincent has now sought a plea bargain, so he's actually admitted to having spot fixed games.
Correct.
While McCullum says he was approached, he didn't do anything about it. But yes, he was approached.
Right. Okay, Dilip, how are you reading this sudden new development that's happened with Brendan McCullum coming out and saying that he was approached by someone, and then subsequently Chris Keynes denying that he was that someone who was approached?
Yeah, well, a couple of things strike me. One is that this Chris Keynes is involved, almost willy-nilly, because he did have that whole dust-up with Dilip Modi a couple of years ago. So his name is going to be immediately equated to that cricketer X, and until we know otherwise, I guess people will just assume that was him, for better or worse. The other thing is what Ayaz actually said. It's kind of sad that, and it reminds me of what New Zealand cricketers said at the time the ICL was formed. With Shane Bond, I remember saying he joined the ICL. He says because they offered me $600,000, and that's 10 times or 5 times or some huge number of times more than what New Zealand cricket could ever offer me to play. And that's a sign of how poor that cricket board is, and naturally so. And therefore those guys joined. And on a side note, it was really sad to me that so many New Zealand cricketers, Shane Bond I'm thinking of in particular, were lost to us for some years just because the ICL was deemed a rebel league, because they joined that. And that history is something that I hope that some of this will also revisit, and we'll look back at that and feel ashamed of how we treated those cricketers.
Ayaz, how do we look at the last 6 years of cricket and New Zealand's involvement in that in the light of these allegations surfacing?
I think Dilip has raised a very interesting and very pertinent point. And you have to go back in time a little. 2007 is when we won the T20 World Championship, and then suddenly everything accelerated. The Indian Cricket League took off first of the blocks, and they hired all kinds of cricketers. The most vulnerable, and therefore the largest number of players were from New Zealand, West Indies, and Sri Lanka. A lot of them retired, semi-retired. Some were in there, perhaps still not, beyond their prime, like Shane Bond. The immediate temptation of getting into a higher income bracket, because they were fighting against their own boards. All these three cricket boards were fighting against their players.
But you are saying higher income bracket thanks to corruption?
No, yes. No, not so.
Okay. Oh, you're talking about the league. Okay.
The league's paying more money. And then the IPL came, which actually paid players 4 or 5 times more than what ICL paid. So I think there was a large number of players who felt, hey, we've actually taken the wrong train. So, they couldn't get out of it till the ICL shut down. Some of them unfortunately finished their careers, like Shane Bond, and then became coach for New Zealand, whatever else. But there was this thing that I feel the general sentiment was, these leagues are starting cash-rich leagues in India, where people they'll watch cricket for whatever it is worth. It's a tamasha, it's a whole big drama, and there's easy pickings to be made. Some legit, sometimes a little illegit, but nobody will know, because nobody knew how it would grow. The IPL, of course, grew very big. The ICL didn't. A lot of them kind of compromised later. The Indian players came back into Ambati Raidu, who played for ICL, is playing IPL now. Stuart Binney, several others,
right,
and several others from the international teams also.
Right. So therefore, what is the this residue of all of this today is the question.
No, so I think what is happening is that a lot of what we are hearing now is located in that period 2008, when there was a lot of flux.
Fair enough.
There were players who were not getting enough money from their own boards. They were either in dispute or the boards were bust.
Okay.
And then they found these leagues, they joined in.
So why is this? Of course, this whole thing has erupted because this Brendan's testimony has been leaked to the Daily Mail in the UK. Lou Vincent's and Brendan's. So, but why has it been going on for 6 years? Is this an investigation that has lasted so long?
So I think it's also linked to the fact that Lalit Modi had filed. I mean, he had named Chris Kane,
IPL chief, then IPL chief.
Then IPL chief had named Chris Kane as one of. Then this whole thing about fixing and betting came about. Chris Kane fought it in court in England and won with costs against Lalit Modi. Now he's come out actually and said, look, this player X that Lou Vincent is talking about, and a star player that McCallum is talking about, and everybody assumes it's me, but it's not me. And legally, where is the evidence? I think that there has been over the last 5-6 years a great deal of concern in New Zealand cricket that somewhere everything had gone haywire and wrong, and they have actually pursued that in an investigation, and now things are reaching a head. That's where I think the issue is becoming very big.
Okay, so questions coming in. Anwar Khan asks, and Dilip, you want to take this first? He says, stopped watching cricket. Isn't everything fixed by BCCI, and ICC, I guess, is Indian Cricket Council?
Yeah, well, I completely agree. I mean, I don't watch the IPL, but of course, a part of that is that I don't have a TV. But apart from that, I just think in the end, the fan who wants clean cricket has got to what's the word? Vote with his wallet. You want clean cricket, stop watching the damn TV and stop watching the IPL. And of course, that's the kind of an idealistic thing to say. It's never going to happen. The IPL is going to continue to have its share of audience. Fine, but frankly, I'm just too cynical to think that this stuff is going to go away anytime soon.
Dilip, we've touched base on this subject a few weeks ago as well. At that time, we were talking about corruption in the IPL context and the investigation that's been going on and on. Now, this is a new revelation and makes the whole thing look different and global and all of that. How do you, is this something that you were expecting as someone who follows the game so closely?
No, I don't. I mean, why should it be just one country? You know, why shouldn't it be global? Who's corruption knows no boundaries as far as I'm concerned. You know, why should it be just India? Why should it be just New Zealand? Or why should we think we're holier than thou? Or you know, in any case, this is going to spread to wherever there are guys who want to make some money. It saddens me that somebody like Lou Vincent, who you know started with such a fine bang in his cricket career, is involved in this stuff. But that's a fact of life. It saddens me that Chris Cairns is involved. But these are all not just heroes to his own countrymen, but they are great players whom we all admire just because we watch them. And but that's the fact that these guys have needs, financial needs that their boards can't meet, and they're going to turn to corruption at some point.
Right. So the big question, Ayaz, this happened in 2008. We're dealing with this whole IPL issue of IPL 6, which is last year,
2013. Yes.
2013. Does this all suggest that there is still something swirling in this form of cricket and the management of it?
Most certainly. What it tells us is that this was far more widespread than we imagined. It was not restricted only to Indian players. Some of them. Like,
no, and the timing when it happened, this was actually before the IPL started.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know,
so people were already taking pole position.
The first time it happened was in when the scam broke was Hansi Connies and you know all the other players involved was in 2000. So it's not that cricket has been entirely clean. I think, like I don't think any sport is entirely clean.
Sure.
You know, whether it's about drug usage or drug abuse or money or tanking matches and whatever else. It's just that I think that cricket has been a little lax in setting up enough checks and balances, especially with the proliferation of the leagues. The current story, if you look at it, it's about the Indian Cricket League, or it's about the Indian Premier League, or it's about Champions League. And it seems to suggest, from what I've been hearing and what we've been reading, is that once these guys, the unsavory elements who get into hiring players to do these kind of things, then they follow the players wherever they go, as inevitably would happen. So in the past, when there was corruption in Test and one-day cricket, the same set of players, wherever they played, maybe they were playing for their countries, but they were, you know, into hanky-panky. And now it's in the leagues. The leagues offer you a little more shelter, I think, because it's very difficult to detect a change in the tenor. You know, because everything is slam bang. You miss a shot, you hit a shot. You know, it's
so the leagues themselves offer greater scope for skullduggery.
But don't forget, in 2005-06,
Dilip,
Pakistan players were. I'll just come. When they were found, you know, guilty of match fixing or corrupt or spot fixing, it was in a test match. The three Pakistani players who were banned, Mohammad Asif, Mohammad Amir, and Salman Butt. That was in a test match.
Okay. Yes, Dilip.
No, that wasn't 2005 though, Ayaz, right? Well, that was just like 2010 or
2010. Yeah, 2010.
Yeah. Anyway, just a correction there.
Yeah,
what were you saying?
Sorry, Dilip, come again.
No, I was saying you called my name as if you were asking something.
So the question was, is there something fundamentally wrong in leagues then, and this form of leagues, and you know the flashbang and you know all the instant gratification approach, which immediately and automatically leads to all kinds of unsavory people getting in and trying to tempt people through all these means that we've seen.
You know, there's a really, I'm going to answer that by directing you to a fabulous film that you should see about corruption in baseball. It's called 8 Men Out. It's about the 1920 or 1990 World Series where the Chicago Cubs, who were entered the World Series and threw the series, or tried to, because they were being paid really badly by their owners. And you know, you can slam them for that, but the fact is that they were being paid pretty badly by their owners, and that's an exact parallel to these guys we've been talking about, Shane Bond and Lou Vincent and all of them. I don't think it has anything to do with the kind of game in particular. It has to do with the fact that there's a lot of money, and where there's a lot of money, you're going to have corruption. It doesn't matter whether it's cricket. It doesn't matter whether it's if the IBL, the badminton league, starts paying huge amounts of money. By God, you're going to have people there turning corrupt too, you know, in whatever form you can do it in badminton. I don't know. It's not the fact that it's a slam bang variety. If Test cricket paid that kind of money, it would happen in Test cricket. As Ayaz pointed out, it happened to the Pakistani players.
Right, in Test match. So, Ayaz, we've got an IPL 7 going on. How do we take some kind of comfort that all of this that we're talking about, revelations from the past, investigations of today are not having any impact on the current matches that are going on.
Well, I hope, hopefully, it has had a good impact, in the sense that it's cautioned or warned players and people who are involved in all of this, or who could potentially be involved. That,
but
hey,
so is the frenzy that went into the creation of this league and the buying of the players, and the bidding for the players and all of that, has that died down?
I think that what happened first, I think the whole world was dumbstruck, or they were shocked, at the kind of money that suddenly came in. I mean, people getting paid. Even in this year's auction, people have been paid 14 crore and 12 crore and 8 crore. It's a lot of money, and especially if you're from countries where the boards are not rich, you don't have otherwise avenues. So it's a lot of money. Everybody's aspiring to be here, and in the first flush, I think, perhaps nobody understood the matrix of it completely. Nobody knew whether it's going to be there for the next season or the third season or the sixth season or not. Maybe there was a tendency, grab and run. You never know what might happen. That could have been. I'm just speculating. It's a surmise. Then things started settling down. Then I think the problem is also of the haves and have-nots. When you look at league cricket, and Dilip will bear me out on this, a guy bowls 4 overs and a star bowls 4 overs. The non-entity might actually bowl the 4 overs for lesser cost, pick up a wicket, and go back and say, I'm getting paid jack shit for doing exactly the same thing. The differences between players is more pronounced when the longer formats come in.
Right.
And you say that I'm perhaps being deprived of the money which I should also be earning.
Dilip, sorry, you were saying something, we missed you.
No, I said, that's exactly right. It's not just the boards that are cash poor. Last year, fellows, what is his name, Chandila and the other guy who was Srisan, these are guys who've probably never seen that kind of money, And I think that's a really good point that Ayaz made. You have those kind of bowlers bowling next to Dale Steyn, and Steyn picks up 0 wickets and goes for 60 runs in his 4 overs, but this guy comes and bowls his 4 overs and gets a couple of wickets. He is going to say, wait a minute, I outbowled Steyn today, but I'm not making the same kind of money, so there must be some other way I can make that money. I'm not going to get into the test team. I'm not going to become an international star. Here's my chance. Money corrupts. That's
okay. So, which comes back to the points that Ayaz has been consistently raising, that the systems to check.
See, free market dynamics in sport, and especially in India, have not yet been completely understood. And nor have they been structured properly. I think, for instance, I've said this ad nauseum, that the governing council, the structuring of the IPL is perhaps flawed. The governing council can't be a cozy club. It needs people who have, a more robust understanding of business as well as sport, and certainly the business end of it. And therefore, they will bring in the checks and balances, not.
But is that an endorsement for a Lalit Modi kind of approach, or is it?
I'm saying it's an endorsement. You get, any good company, a robust company, would have 2 or 3 external directors.
But can I say something there?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the case in point is what happened in the NBA a couple of weeks ago, which we talked about the last time too, right? The whole racism allegation. The NBA comes down hard on that one owner, and who's the guy doing it? An NBA guy who's got nothing. The head of the NBA, the commissioner, has nothing to do with basketball. I mean, I think you really need administrators who have nothing to do with cricket, who are just professional CEOs or whatever you want to call them. That's their job, to run an organization. It's not.
So we are saying that this structure, Ayaz, is what will give comfort to the constituency, which is all of us who watch cricket, and also ensure that the systems to prevent such abuses will not take place.
As a viewer,
right? I mean, that's what we're taking it forward to.
The only way you can get Dilip D'Souza to watch IPL, I mean, he doesn't like T20 cricket, that's a different matter. But IPL is that at least he feels when he's viewing that I'm watching something which is, clean.
Yeah.
So that's the first inducement for somebody who's otherwise skeptical. Those who have gone into it for the tamasha of it, that's a different issue. So I think that one is, it will evolve in terms of people and players and everybody else understanding the free market dynamics. Why a Dale Steyn, despite going 0 for 42 or 42 for no wickets in a match, still will earn more than some guy who's paid 1/10 his money and picked up 2 wickets, because those are free market dynamics. you know, that over a period of time, if Dale Steyn stops taking wickets continuously, his market value will also fall down.
Right.
It happened. I'll give you an example with Dan Christian, the Australian all-rounder. One season he earns $800,000. The next season nobody's picking him up for $75,000 or $50,000. They don't want him. So that can happen, a free fall. That has to be understood. But how you run the tournament, how you run the league, is something that needs a far more robust and a structured approach. In the excitement and the hurly-burly of the IPL being a runaway success, some aspects of this were neglected. They need to be brought in. LA Clippers, on charges of racism, instant ban, life ban for the owner.
For that guy.
Coming back to Brendan McCullum and New Zealand, Dilip, what's going to happen now? I mean, there's obviously now a little bit of a cloud hanging all over the New Zealand team, and being with the captain particularly. Though everyone has come out in his defense, are things going to be a little, under controversy for a while?
I don't think so, actually. I mean, frankly, I don't see, at least what I've read so far, there aren't any particular allegations against McCullum, except that he came out and said, I was approached. I mean, lots of people get approached, and as far as I'm willing to take it at face value and presume that McCullum didn't succumb to the approach. So until that's proved otherwise, to me, I'm going to treat him as the really good, strong cricketer that he is. Which he
so, and who do you think could be the player X, Dilip?
Who do I think it could be? I mean, like I said, everybody's assuming that it's Chris Cairns. I would like to hope that it isn't him, because he is such a great player. But that's just my sentiment. Other than that, I have no clue. It could be some Indian star for all I know.
Hero.
Just one point where I differ from Dilip, and not differ from him in principle, but in the modalities to which all players have to now subscribe to. That if you're approached, you have immediately to report that you've been approached.
Yes,
I think
that's
that's what McCullum has not done, and I think therefore that I completely believe that he spurned that offer, but he didn't report. So the ICC and the ACSU must take some action, because otherwise you're not sending the messaging which goes out to the rest of the cricketing world.
But was he required to report at that time? I'm just asking.
Yes, I think it's come into effect, Dilip, from 2007-8.
Okay, so he was required.
So I mean, maybe it could be a punitive thing. Maybe he's fined $50,000, $100,000, whatever. I mean,
but there's a message needs to go out.
More than just saying, okay, but we think he's clean, let him be, but this should not happen again. I think there must be a rap on the knuckles, so that or a fine perhaps, because that's what hurts players when you pay out of your pocket.
Right. And so, last question really, Ayaz. So what's your sense of is there a cloud hanging over the team because the captain himself is involved in this?
I actually feel the clouds have gone a little darker.
Okay.
So it's the IPL 6. It's now what we hear is that it's county cricket, because we also know Danish Kaneria's repeated pleas to be exonerated have been turned down in courts in England. Blue Vincent has talked about the Champions League, and it's not like 100 years back. This was 2008, and it shows that actually the malaise had spread pretty far and wide in cricket. So you've got the ACSU. Maybe the intent is right, but there has to be a far more robust approach. And I think the one thing which needs to come through clearly, like we saw in the case of LA Clippers, there has to be precipitate action once you're clear. So if you found Lou Vincent, he's made a plea bargain, he still needs to be punished. He may name a few players. Those guys need to get it in the neck. One of the things which I've never understood is, if a guy has been found guilty of fixing a match, spot fixing, why are his records still existing?
You're talking about Lou Vincent?
No, I'm talking of any player. Just erase their records from the history of the game.
Yeah, and also, why should it take so long? I mean,
why should it take so long?
2008,
where is the deterrent?
Yeah.
Where is the deterrent? So they need to come back with stronger deterrents.
Yeah. And all of this, because finally it's in the interest of the game and interest of all the people who are watching, and that's what this is all about. Ayaz, thank you very much. Dilip, thank you very much. I know you're off on a road trip. All the best for that. See you back soon.
Thank you. All right. Okay.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.